Good morning and welcome to AI Daily. We hope you survived the 3-day break from us. We surely missed you all, but thanks for joining us again for another exciting episode where we will talk about several acquisitions in the AI space, as well as some pretty impressive text to video and another big LLM being opened up a little bit wider than it was before from the folks over at Inflection. Let's jump into it. We have three acquisitions here: MosaicML being acquired, Cohere being acquired, and Mode Analytics being acquired. Ethan, did you get a chance to look into these three acquisitions, and how much of the acquisition amounts will I be receiving?
You might not be receiving any this time, but I think this just speaks to the fact that the acquisition space is heating up for AI companies. So you have all these big companies. Databricks was the first one buying Mosaic for 1.3 billion. Of course, you had Cohere being bought by RAM, and then you had ThoughtSpot being bought by Mode Analytics. So all of these were upwards of $100 million, $200 million, $1 billion. And most of these companies were founded within the past 2 years with less than 50, 60 employees. So I think it's a big time in the space. Every big company is thinking about this. You've seen the massive cloud giants and Google and Meta partnering with some of the, open AIs of the world, stability AIs of the world. And now you have all the other players starting to get acquisition. So, these numbers speak for themselves. These companies see the value in not only the talent, but also the platforms that are being built around AI. And I think we're just going to see more of this.
Cool.
Yeah, but I believe ThoughtSpot acquiring Mode Analytics. But again, of course, these are all like very data AI analytics focused companies. That's really the
Yeah.
common theme we're seeing of who's being acquired nowadays.
What do you mean by that?
Of course, Databricks is like a data warehouse, lake house, whatever they call it, and they're acquiring Mosaic so that people's data can probably be used easier to train with Mosaic. Cohere.io is a like customer data analytics, and then Mode Analytics is a like business intelligence analytics. So
So do you think this is less focused around foundational LLMs and more focused around data analysis, or the intersection of the two?
definitely intersection. Mosaic is the only one that's clearly building foundational LLMs, but all these are analyzing data and have lots of data because of that. So perfect for foundational LLMs.
It seems like some big acquisitions for this early in the game in terms of post. I think we can call this new epoch kicking off with GPT 3.5 last year. Pretty impressive. I doubt we'll see this slowing down. Probably picking up the pace, and hopefully I'll get my cut of some of the future acquisitions. I don't know why I got left out of this round. All right, moving on to our next story here. Some very impressive text to video from Zero Scope. They have, looks like, two models here. One that generates a lower resolution version, and the second that upscales that. They kind of recommend using the XL model to upscale the previous model. Connor, did you get a chance to check it out? What are your thoughts?
Looks pretty interesting. It was trained using 10,000 clips and 30,000 individual frames that were tagged at 24 frames per second. Clips look pretty good. Some of the more simple ones, like rain falling down or like water on a window, or even like zooming into like a moving city. Even some little bit more complicated ones, like a ballerina dancing. Pretty interesting models. Of course, very early, you wouldn't want to use this for something. This isn't anywhere near like a Mid Journey or even the Stable Diffusion
Is it
in terms of
available?
an. Yes, it is open source on Hugging Face.
Very cool.
But the quality, of course, is not there yet. And pretty short clips too, only about like 3 or 4 seconds of each of them. But
That seems to be like the big, you know, bottleneck right now is this length of video. Ethan, do you think that's just a matter of, hey, if we let you do an hour-long video, then you'll consume our processing for the next 2 weeks and nobody else will be able to do anything? Or is it just not possible to do it? Why is everything, 3 to 5 seconds?
It's partially on that, but also in terms of training these models, they're training them on 3 to 5 second clips with the caption of that. So, you can imagine training on an hour long video, if that's even possible, it would require a lot of GPU power. So we're seeing it at a low clip rate right now, short clips, less quality. But gosh, if you compare this, I think maybe beginning of the year or even end of last year, we saw Meta's like very first like 1 second moving GIF. And we were like, wow, like video is coming. And now we're seeing a 3 to 5 second, pretty well done open source model for text to video. And just extrapolate that to what we're going to be generating here at Christmas time. And I think we're on a great pace.
Yeah, I mean,
I,
if you triple or quadruple it every year, we'll get there pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
I think the longer videos probably require more of like the meta multimodal abstract reasoning. Because these are like clips you might use in B-roll is what we're seeing right now. If you want an actual video that transitions between subjects, you need a more layered model that can understand the differences of going from this scene to this scene.
Absolutely.
I will happily report as a movie file that says as a cinephile that they said that the video outputs are better if you do them at 24 frames per second, probably because what it's trained on is at 24 frames per second, which is kind of the classic movie frame rate and not the ugly, disgusting video frame rate that a lot of televisions have by default. And whenever I go to somebody's house, I take their remote and I immediately remove all of those settings so that they can watch things as they're supposed to be viewed. And some people like it, some people don't. Don't invite me over if you don't want that.
Very fine gesture.
Yeah, thank you. That's how I feel about it. All right, moving on to our third and final story. Inflection is announcing, basically a broader access to their LLM. They're going to, I think, have API access soon. They talked a lot about the benchmarks that it seems to have, been able to perform against other models out there. It seems like it's doing very well. Interestingly enough, it seems that the benchmarks are not including any reinforcement learning through human feedback. I thought that was one interesting point that they seem to make. I didn't dig in further into it. Ethan, what did you get from this?
Yeah, I didn't see them using that either. I haven't got to try their new model. Of course, we've talked about Pi on the podcast before, but at the end of the day, they seem to focus like they talked about trivia questions that they've done a lot better on. They've talked about MMLU, which is multitask language understanding, kind of like academic benchmarks. So they seem to be very focused on that. So when it comes to the API and conversational ability, we've seen how these benchmarks aren't always as accurate. So I'm curious to see how this model is going to perform, and especially in people's like day-to-day kind of chat GPT-esque use. But they did put out some great benchmarks for, academic work and trivia questions and some of these niches that people have found GPT-4 to not be too good at. So curious to see more from them. But, as we always talk about, the more players in the foundational model space, the better. So excited for them.
Yeah. Connor, what do you think?
Yep. I believe this is the second model that's publicly trained on H100s, MPTs, Mosaic's 30B. As we mentioned last time, was of course trained on H100s. They flouted that they're publicly the first. Inflection 1 narrowly lost that margin. But yeah, as you mentioned, Ethan, it's very good to have other players in the space always, of course.
What's the significance of training them on H100s from your perspective?
It's faster, more efficient.
I mean, coming out and saying that, we're the first, is it just something to say, or like what?
It must be something to say. The models aren't going to actually be any better, but it is just an interesting note to say that we finally gone from the A100s to the H100s when it comes to these trainings.
You think as a net that makes the training cheaper or more expensive?
Probably more expensive,
but faster.
Might even out in the end if they're using H100s. H100s are also just more available than A100s right now, oddly enough.
Yeah.
If you go on Lambda API and look for models, they have plenty of H100s available, but not many A100s. So it is nice though. As you said, Ethan, another foundational model. Pi got a lot of flack last time because their initial demo was just GPT 3.5. So they probably waited to pop back in the news cycle with Inflection 1. So.
All right. These are some pretty cool stories. Let's move on to chat a little bit about what else we're seeing. I have to share Ethan Mollick. I don't even know if this was real, but he apparently was playing with Bing's ability to send it images. And he sent it an image of basically a interface for a nuclear reactor, and just the buttons and stuff on it. And he's like, there is a whole bunch of alarms blaring. What should I do? And you can see this. We'll share the tweet, but Bing basically starts being like, you're in front of a nuclear reactor. Don't press this button. If you don't know what you're doing, get out of the area very quickly. And then he's like, oh, I pressed this button. What should I do? And it's like, wait, what did you do? With like exclamation point, question mark. I honestly almost didn't even believe that it was actually real, but I think it was. I don't think he would lie about it being real. But welcome to the crazy new world where he said he was trying to stress out Bing using images and seemed to successfully accomplish his goal.
Successful. No.
I love that.
What do you guys see?
Yeah, I got to see that Harvard's new computer science teacher for their upcoming September class is going to be an AI chatbot. So interesting. It's, some of these educational institutions are actually embracing some of this technology. So they're going to be able to deploy this. Students can chat with it, get help on some CS assignments. Props to them for actually integrating this and not banning it like some of these other schools. So I thought that was really cool.
Well, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for like a CS50 introductory class where
Yeah.
people don't really have that experience, and everyone getting a one-on-one like tutor essentially would be very nice.
Yeah, really.
Absolutely.
Wow, really trashing the AI's ability to teach more advanced concepts, aren't you?
I think it's currently better for CS50 than it might be for
Wait,
other.
wait till they're tenured and then good luck with them, okay?
Tenured AI.
It's a good name for an
Well,
AI
that's-
company, tenured
Yeah.
AI. Good luck getting rid of us. Connor, what do you think?
I saw PanoHead. It was a pretty interesting model. I think it uses GANs or something similar, but takes one shot of someone's face. You can take one picture of someone's face, and then it over and over reiterates until it gets a very accurate, very realistic looking 3D model of their head.
I mean,
So-
it does I saw that too. It does a pretty impressive job, even on the back of the head. It gets a little bit wonky in the back of the head. It's,
Right.
it's like you didn't finish closing your head during your fetal stage or something like that. But still pretty impressive given that it has zero view of it whatsoever.
Yeah, zero view of the back of the head. So the fact that the back of the head looks okay at all. is
Yeah.
exciting. But you can definitely pipeline this together with something like this face does not exist or even a stable diffusion nowadays.
Yeah.
And you go from single shot of someone's head to a 3D character model that you can use in some video game.
And it's available, I think, right?
Very available. Yep. Open on,
Awesome.
Love it.
Fun episode. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on another episode of AI Daily. Have a great day.
See you guys.
These guys.